Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Thunderbolt and looked out at the stars. The massive ship moved through space like a giant metal whale. Its hull was dark gray and covered with weapons that had never been fired in real battle. The ship was 2 kilometers long and filled with 1,200 of Earth's best soldiers and scientists. Jake had been waiting for this moment his whole life. Humanity had been watching the galaxy burn for 200 years. 2 alien races called. The Zephyrians and the Korthic had been fighting each other across the stars. Their war had killed billions of innocent people and destroyed entire worlds. The other aliens in the galaxy just watched and did nothing to stop it. Dr. Lisa Carter sat at her station and watched the long-range sensors. Her fingers moved across the controls as she studied the readings. She had short brown hair and wore the blue uniform of Earth Science Division. Lisa had spent years learning about alien technology by studying the wreckage of ships that drifted into human space. "Commander," Lisa said without looking up from her screen, "I am picking up massive energy readings ahead of us. Both alien fleets are fighting in the Kepler system." Jake nodded and walked over to her station. He was tall with gray hair and had been in the military for 20 years. His face showed the stress of commanding humanity's first real warship. "How many ships are out there?" "More than 300 vessels total, sir. This is the biggest battle we have ever seen between them." The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Other crew members worked at their stations and prepared for what was coming. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez sat at the communications station. He was young with dark hair and had joined the mission because he could speak 12 different alien languages. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez worked on the weapon systems. He was older and had helped design the ship's guns and missiles. Jake had read every report about the alien war. The Zephyrians were tall beings made of living crystal who used energy weapons and shields. Their ships looked like floating cathedrals, made of blue and white crystal. The Korthic were different. They were part machine and part living creature. Their ships were grown instead of built and could heal themselves when damaged. Both alien races thought humans were too primitive to matter. They had never visited Earth or tried to make contact. To them, humans were just another species that had barely learned to travel between stars. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment. The Thunderbolt was different from any ship in the galaxy. While aliens used energy weapons and fancy shields, humans had taken a simpler approach. The ship was covered with railguns that could shoot metal slugs at incredible speeds. It carried nuclear missiles that other aliens thought were too primitive to use. The ship's armor was made from metals that aliens had never seen before. "Drop us out of hyperspace at the edge of the system," Jake ordered. "I want to see what we are dealing with." The ship shuddered as it left hyperspace and entered normal space. Through the main view screen, Jake could see the battle raging in the distance. Alien ships fired energy beams at each other, while others exploded in bright flashes of light. The space around the planets was filled with debris from destroyed vessels. "Sir," Sam said from his station, "every alien ship in the system just detected us. They are all scanning our vessel." Jake smiled grimly. For 2 centuries, the galaxy had been at war, and no one had tried to stop it. Today, that would change. "Open a channel to all ships in the system." "Channel open, sir." Jake stepped forward and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earth. Ship Thunderbolt. To all vessels in this system, you are ordered to stop fighting immediately and move to neutral positions." The response came quickly. Both alien fleets began transmitting on all frequencies. The translation systems worked to convert their languages into English. Most of the messages were the same. They were laughing at the humans. "Unknown vessel," came a voice that sounded like crystal bells ringing. "You have no authority here. Leave immediately, or face the consequences. Another voice sounded like grinding metal mixed with organic sounds. Primitive species should not interfere in matters beyond their understanding. Withdraw or be destroyed. Jake looked at his crew. They all knew this moment would come. Humanity had spent 30 years building this ship and training its crew. They had studied every battle and learned from every alien mistake. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could do. Dr. Carter Jake said, "Begin deep scans of both fleets. I want to know everything about their ship's weapons and defenses." "Already working on it, Commander. The Zephyrians use energy shields that can stop plasma and particle weapons. The Korthik have bio-armor that adapts to damage. Neither of them has faced kinetic weapons like ours." Lieutenant Amy Foster worked at the tactical station. She had blonde hair and was one of the best weapons officers in the Earth Fleet. "Sir, all weapon systems are online. Railguns are charged and ready. Nuclear torpedo bays are loaded." Jake nodded. The aliens thought humans were primitive because they still used physical weapons instead of energy beams. They were about to learn that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. "Tony, how are the engines?" "Running at full power, Commander. The fusion reactors are stable, and we have enough fuel for extended combat." The alien fleets continued their battle as if the human ship did not exist. Zephyrian crystal ships fired beams of pure energy, while Korthik bioships launched living missiles that could think and adapt. Neither side paid attention to the lone human vessel watching from the edge of the system. "Commander," Lisa said, "I am detecting movement from both fleets. Some ships are breaking off from the main battle and heading toward us." Jake looked at the tactical display. 12 Zephyrian cruisers were approaching from one direction, while 15 Korthik destroyers came from another. Both groups moved with the confidence of predators who had found easy prey. "It looks like they want to test us," Jake said. "Let them come." The bridge crew prepared for battle. This was the moment that would change everything. For 200 years the galaxy had been at war. Today humanity would show them a different way. The Thunderbolt waited in the darkness of space as the alien ships approached. Admiral Zethkar stood in the command center of his flagship and studied the strange vessel that had appeared in the system. His crystalline body glowed with different colors as his emotions changed. The Zephyrian fleet had been fighting the Korthik for over 50 years, and he had never seen anything like this new ship. "Science officer, what can you tell me about this vessel?" Zethkar asked. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm dot. The science officer was a being of pure energy contained in a crystal shell. She flickered with uncertainty as she studied the readings. "Admiral, this ship does not match anything in our databases. The hull composition uses metals we have never seen weaponized. Their power systems are completely unknown to us." Zethkar moved closer to the display screen. The human ship looked brutal and functional, where Zephyrian vessels were elegant works of art. This ship was clearly built for war. Every surface bristled with weapons, and the hull was covered with armor plating. "What about the crew?" he asked. "They are using primitive radio signals to communicate. The species appears to be carbon-based and calls itself human. We have no record of this species in any galactic database." On the other side of the battle, War Prime Brutus felt his bio-neural implants responding to the new arrival. The Korthik leader was part machine and part living creature. His body had been enhanced with organic weapons, and his ship was grown from living tissue instead of being built. "Scan the newcomer," Brutus ordered through his neural link. "I want to know what we are dealing with." The response came back through the ship's biological computers. War Prime, the vessel, shows no biological components. It appears to be entirely mechanical. The crew's life signs are weak and uniform, suggesting they are not enhanced. Brutus felt a strange sensation he had not experienced in years. The Korthik were masters of adaptation and biological warfare. They could change their bodies and ships to counter any threat, but this vessel felt different. It was cold and mechanical and somehow dangerous. Both alien fleets had stopped their battle to focus on the human ship. Hundreds of vessels floated in space while their crews tried to understand what they were seeing. The war that had raged for 2 centuries suddenly seemed less important than this. New Mystery Commander Morrison stood on the bridge of the Thunderbolt and watched the alien reactions. His crew monitored the communications between the 2 fleets. The translation systems worked to convert the alien languages into English. "Sir," Sam Rodriguez said from the communication station, "both fleets have stopped fighting. They are talking to each other about us." Jake nodded. "What are they saying?" "The Zephyrians think we might be some kind of Korthik weapon. The Korthik believe we could be a secret Zephyrian project. Neither side wants to make the first move." Dr. Carter looked up from her science station. "Commander, I have completed the scans of both fleets. The Zephyrian ships use energy shields that can deflect plasma weapons and particle beams. Their hulls are made of living crystal that can repair minor damage. The Korthik vessels use bio-armor that adapts to different types of attack. Their ships can actually grow new parts when damaged." Jake studied the tactical display. The 2 alien fleets were impressive. Each ship was larger than the Thunderbolt and carried weapons that could destroy planets. But they had one weakness. They had been fighting each other for so long that they had forgotten how to fight anyone else. "Tony," Jake said to his chief engineer, "how do our weapons compare to theirs?" Tony Martinez looked at his readings. "Sir, our railguns can accelerate projectiles to 15% of light speed. Neither fleet has kinetic shields. Their energy shields are designed to stop beams and plasma, not solid objects moving at high velocity. What about our nuclear weapons?" The aliens stopped using nuclear weapons thousands of years ago. They consider them primitive. Their ships have no defense against radiation or electromagnetic pulse. Jake smiled. Sometimes being primitive was an advantage. While the aliens had developed advanced energy weapons, humans had perfected the art of throwing rocks very fast and making very big explosions. "Commander," Amy Foster said from the tactical station, "the Zephyrian ships are moving to surround U.S. 12 cruisers are taking flanking positions." "Let them come," Jake said. "Open a channel to the lead ship." Sam worked his controls. "Channel open, sir." The response came in perfect English, though the voice sounded like crystal chimes. "Unknown vessel, you will surrender immediately and submit to Zephyrian authority. Your interference in galactic affairs will not be tolerated." Jake looked at his crew. They had trained for this moment for years. "This is Commander Morrison of the United Earth ship Thunderbolt. You have 30 seconds to withdraw, or we will consider your approach an act of war." The alien laughter that came through the speakers was like breaking glass. "Your species is unknown. Your technology is primitive. You have no authority in this galaxy." "Tony," Jake said quietly, "target their lead ship. Prepare to fire." The Thunderbolt's main railgun began to charge. The weapon drew power from the ship's fusion reactor and used magnetic fields to accelerate a tungsten slug to incredible speed. The aliens had no idea what was about to happen. "Sir," Gamey said, "the Zephyrian ships are powering up their weapons. They intend to disable us." Jake watched the enemy ships move into position. Their crystal hulls glowed with contained energy and their weapons began to charge. The Korthik fleet waited in the distance, watching to see what would happen. "All hands, this is the commander," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "We are about to engage alien vessels. Remember your training and show them what humanity can do." The bridge crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. They had practiced this scenario hundreds of times in simulations. Now they would find out if their training was enough. "Commander," Lisa said, "I am detecting massive energy buildup from the Zephyrian ships. They are preparing to fire." Jake looked at the tactical display. The alien cruisers had formed a perfect circle around the Thunderbolt. Their weapons were aimed at the human ship's engines and weapon systems. They intended to disable the ship and capture it for study. "Tony," Jake said, "fire." The railgun discharged with a sound like thunder. The tungsten slug left the barrel. At 45,000 kilometers per second, it covered the distance to the lead Zephyrian ship in less than a second. The aliens had never faced a kinetic weapon of this power. Their energy shields were designed to deflect plasma and particle beams. The solid projectile passed through the shield as if it was not there. It punched through the crystal hull and continued out the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole. The Zephyrian ship's death was spectacular. The crystal matrix that held the ship together shattered and released all the stored energy at once. The explosion lit up the void like a new star and sent shockwaves through both fleets. Every alien ship in the system detected the explosion. Communication channels that had been filled with chatter suddenly went silent. For the first time in 2 centuries, the galaxy had witnessed something new. The silence after the Zephyrian ship exploded lasted for exactly 17 seconds. Then both alien fleets erupted in panicked communications. The remaining 11 Zephyrian cruisers scattered like frightened birds while the Korthic ships moved. Closer to get a better look at the human vessel. Commander Morrison watched the alien reactions with satisfaction. One shot had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy had failed to do. He had gotten their attention. "Sam, what are they saying now?" Rodriguez listened to the translation systems. "Sir, the Zephyrians are reporting that their shields were completely useless against our weapon. The Korthic are analyzing the explosion, trying to understand what happened." Dr. Carter studied her sensor readings. "Commander, both fleets have stopped all offensive actions. They are maintaining position, but their weapons are no longer charging." Jake nodded. "Good. Maybe now they will listen to reason." But he was wrong. Admiral Zethkar was furious. The loss of one of his ships to an unknown species was humiliating. His crystal body glowed bright red with anger as he contacted his remaining ship commanders. "All vessels prepare for coordinated attack. We will overwhelm them with numbers." War Prime Brutus had reached the same conclusion. The destruction of the Zephyrian ship had been impressive, but it was only one shot. His biomechanical mind calculated that the human vessel could not possibly have enough firepower to fight an entire fleet. All ships advance on the human vessel. Destroy it before it can fire again. The 2 alien fleets that had been fighting each other for centuries suddenly found themselves working together. 147 Korthok vessels and 93 Zephyrian ships began moving toward the Thunderbolt. The space around the human ship filled with alien warships of every size and type. "Commander," Amy Foster said from the tactical station, "both fleets are advancing on our position. I count over 200 vessels approaching from all directions." Jake looked at the tactical display. The alien ships formed a sphere around the Thunderbolt with the human vessel at the center. Crystal ships and bioships moved together in perfect formation. It was the largest combined fleet action in galactic history. "Tony," Jake said, "status of all weapon systems." Martinez checked his readings. "All railguns are online and ready. Nuclear torpedo bays are loaded. Laser arrays are charged. Point defense systems are active." "Lisa, how long until they reach weapons range?" 3 minutes, Commander. The Zephyrian ships are faster, but the Korthak vessels are more heavily armored." Jake made a decision that would change galactic history. All hands general quarters. "This is not a drill. We are about to engage superior numbers. Trust your training and remember that we fight not just for Earth, but for every innocent being in this galaxy." The bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this scenario, but facing over 200 alien warships was beyond anything they had practiced. The odds were impossible, but they would fight anyway. "Commander," Sam said, "I am receiving a transmission from the Corthic fleet. War Prime Brutus wants to speak with you. Put him through." The voice that came through the speakers sounded like grinding metal mixed with organic sounds. "Human Morrison, your demonstration was impressive, but you faced the combined might of two galactic powers. Surrender now, and your death will be quick." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared but ready to fight. "War Prime Brutus, this is your last chance. Order your ships to withdraw or face the consequences. You cannot defeat us all human. Your primitive weapons are no match for our numbers." "We will see about that," Jake replied and closed the channel. The first wave of alien ships entered weapons range. Zephyrian energy beams lanced out toward the Thunderbolt, while Corthing biomissiles streaked through space. The human ships' shields flared as the energy weapons struck them, but the physical projectiles were intercepted by the point defense systems. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "All weapons engage." The Thunderbolt transformed into a storm of destruction. Railgun turrets rotated and fired tungsten slugs at incredible velocity. Each projectile was aimed at a different target and calculated to cause maximum damage. Nuclear torpedoes launched from hidden bays and streaked toward the largest alien. Ships. Laser arrays swept across formations, cutting through armor and hull plating. The aliens had never faced such concentrated firepower. Their tactics were designed for fighting each other, not for dealing with humanity's approach to warfare. The Zephyrian energy shields that had protected them for centuries were useless against solid projectiles. The Corthic bioarmor that could adapt to energy weapons could not evolve fast enough to counter kinetic bombardment. "Direct hit on Zephyrian dreadnought," Amy reported. "The ship is breaking apart." "Corthic cruiser destroyed by nuclear torpedo," Tony added. "The radiation is affecting nearby vessels." Jake watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. The alien ships had expected to overwhelm the human vessel with numbers, but they had not counted on the Thunderbolt's firepower. Every weapon system on the ship was firing continuously, and every shot found its target. "Commander," Lisa said, "I am detecting panic in the alien communications. They are losing ships faster than they can coordinate their attacks." The space around the Thunderbolt became a graveyard of alien vessels. Crystal ships shattered under railgun fire, while bioships were vaporized by nuclear explosions. The point defense systems created a protective barrier around the human ship, destroying any missile or fighter that came too close. "Sir," Sam reported, "some of the alien ships are beginning to retreat. The smaller vessels are breaking off from the attack." But Jake was not finished. The galaxy had been at war for 2 centuries, and millions of innocent beings had died. Today, that would end. Target their command ships. Take out their leadership. The Thunderbolt's main gun began charging for another shot. The weapon required the ship's entire power output, but it could destroy any vessel in the galaxy. The target was War Prime, Brutus's flagship, a massive biomechanical construct that served as the nerve center of the Corthic fleet. "Firing main." "Gun," Tony announced. The projectile left the barrel at nearly 20% of light speed. It struck the Corthic flagship with the force of a small asteroid. The bioship's regenerative capabilities meant nothing against such overwhelming kinetic energy. The vessel simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the impact. Admiral Zethkar's Crystal Dreadnought was next. The ship's elegant spires and flowing curves made it a beautiful target. The railgun round punched through the crystal hull and detonated the ship's energy core. The explosion could be seen from both fleets as another command ship died. Sir, Amy said. Enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down. Without their command ships, they cannot coordinate their attacks. Jake watched as the alien ships began to scatter. Some tried to continue the attack, but most were retreating to safe distances. The combined fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were fleeing from a single human vessel. "Cease fire," Jake ordered. "Let them go." The Thunderbolt's guns fell silent. The space around the ship was filled with wreckage and debris. Over 60 alien vessels had been destroyed or disabled in less than 30 minutes. The survivors were fleeing toward the edge of the system. "Commander," Lisa said, "I am detecting incoming transmissions from neutral worlds throughout the galaxy." "News of this battle is spreading fast." Jake nodded. The moment he had been waiting for had arrived. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. The age of endless war was over. Now came the hard part: building peace. The news of the battle traveled across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within hours, every major world knew that an unknown species had defeated the combined fleets of the two greatest military powers in space. The quantum communication networks carried the story to thousands of worlds, while governments tried to understand what had happened. Commander Morrison stood in the Thunderbolt's communications center, surrounded by screens, showing transmissions from across the galaxy. The small room had become the most important place in known space as dozens of species tried to contact the human ship. Sir Sam Rodriguez said, "We are receiving formal diplomatic requests from 47 different governments. They all want to establish contact with Earth." Jake looked at the flood of messages. The Altarian Republic was offering technology exchanges. The Vegan Confederacy wanted military protection. The Centauri Trade Union was proposing commercial agreements. Species that had been too afraid to speak up during the Great War were suddenly eager to talk. Dr. Carter coordinated the communications from her science station. "Commander, these are all species that remained neutral during the Zephyrian Korthak conflict. They have been waiting for someone to end the war." "What about the survivors from the battle?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Martinez checked his tactical display. "Sir, most of the alien ships have retreated to the edge of the system. They are maintaining distance, but not leaving. I think they are waiting to see what we do next." Jake made a decision that would shape galactic politics for centuries. Sam opened a channel to all ships in the system. "I want everyone to hear this." "Channel open, sir." Jake stepped forward and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "To all vessels in the Kepler system, this is Commander Morrison of the United Earthship Thunderbolt. The war between your species ends today. Any ship that fires on another vessel will be destroyed. Any fleet that attacks civilian targets will face the full might of the human military." The response was immediate. Angry voices from both alien fleets filled the communication channels. The Zephyrians and Korthak had been fighting for 2 centuries and could not accept that an unknown species was ordering them to stop. "Human," came the voice of a surviving Zephyrian admiral, "you have destroyed our ships, but you cannot police the entire galaxy. We will not submit to your authority." A Korthak fleet commander added his voice. "Your species is new to space. You do not understand the history of this conflict. We will not be dictated to by primitives." Jake looked at his crew. They had won the battle, but winning the peace would be harder. "Amy, target the nearest Zephyrian ship. Charge weapons, but do not fire." The Thunderbolt's railguns swiveled to track the crystal cruiser. The alien ship's energy shields flared as its sensors detected the weapons lock. The message was clear. Humanity had the power to back up its demands. "All alien vessels will withdraw from this system immediately," Jake announced. "This space is now under Earth protection. Any violation of our territorial claim will result in immediate destruction." The alien ships began to move, but not in the direction Jake wanted. Instead of leaving the system, they regrouped at the edge of sensor range. Both fleets were damaged, but still dangerous. The Zephyrians had lost their main command ship, but still had over 80 vessels. The Quarthic fleet was in worse shape, with barely 60 ships remaining. "Sir," Lisa said, "I am detecting encrypted communications between the two fleets. They are planning something." Jake was not surprised. The aliens had been enemies for centuries, but they hated humanity more than they hated each other. What kind of planning? It looks like they are forming a joint command structure. They intend to combine their remaining forces and attack us. Together, Amy Foster studied the tactical display. "Commander, if they coordinate their assault, they can bring over 140 ships against us. That is more than we faced in the first battle." Jake considered their options. The Thunderbolt was powerful, but it was still just one ship. The crew was exhausted from the previous battle, and the ship's ammunition was running low. But retreat was not an option. Too much depended on what happened next. "Tony," Jake said, "status of our weapons and defenses." Martinez checked his readings. "Sir, we have used 60% of our railgun ammunition. Nuclear torpedo bays are at 40%. Capacity. The main gun has enough power for 3 more shots, but we need to recharge between firings." "What about the ship's condition?" "Hull integrity is at 95%. Shields are operating normally. The crew is tired, but ready to fight." Jake nodded. "They would have to make every shot count." "Lisa, any word from Earth?" "Sir, the nearest human fleet is 6 days away. We are on our own." The alien fleets finished their preparations and began to advance. This time they moved more carefully, keeping their ships spread out to avoid concentrated fire. The Zephyrians used their speed advantage to attack from multiple directions, while the Quarthic ships provided heavy firepower. "Here they come," Amy said. 143 vessels approaching from all vectors. Jake looked at his crew. They had already achieved the impossible once. Now they had to do it again. "All hands battle stations. We are about to show the galaxy what one human ship can do." The aliens had learned from their previous defeat. Instead of charging straight at the Thunderbolt, they used hit-and-run tactics. Small groups of ships would attack, then retreat before the human weapons could target them. It was a smart strategy, but it had one weakness. It was slow. "Commander," Sam said, "I am receiving a transmission from a neutral world. The Proxima government is offering to mediate a ceasefire. Tell them we appreciate the offer, but this ends today," Jake replied. "No more negotiations, no more delays." The Thunderbolt's weapons opened fire again. Railgun rounds streaked across space, targeting the fastest alien ships. Nuclear torpedoes launched at the largest vessels, while laser arrays swept the void. The point defense systems created a protective barrier around the human ship. But this time, the aliens were ready. They had studied the human weapons and developed countermeasures. The Zephyrian ships used their speed to avoid the railgun fire, while the Quarthic vessels launched clouds of chaff to confuse the targeting systems. "Sir," Amy reported, "enemy ships are using evasive maneuvers. Our hit percentage is down to 40%. Jake watched the battle unfold. The aliens were fighting smarter, but they were still fighting. And as long as they fought, they would lose. Ships. The Thunderbolt might be outnumbered, but it was not outgunned. "Target their formation leaders," Jake ordered. "Break up their coordination." The ship's weapons focused on the vessels that were directing the alien attacks. Without their command, the alien formations began to fall apart. Ships that had been working together suddenly found themselves isolated and vulnerable. "Direct hit on Zephyrian command cruiser," Tony announced. "The ship is destroyed." "Quarthic formation leader is retreating," Amy added. "Their attack is losing." "Coordination," Jake saw his chance. All weapons concentrate fire on the main alien formation. Do not let them regroup. The Thunderbolt unleashed everything it had. Every railgun fired at maximum rate, while nuclear torpedoes streaked toward the largest alien ships. The laser arrays carved through formations, breaking up their attacks. The space around the human ship became a killing field. "Sir," Lisa said, "the alien fleets are beginning to break apart. Some ships are surrendering." Jake looked at the tactical display. The combined alien fleet that had seemed so threatening was scattered and broken. Ships were fleeing in all directions, while others broadcast surrender signals. The great war that had consumed the galaxy for 2 centuries was ending not with a treaty, but with total defeat. "Cease fire," Jake ordered. "Let the survivors go." The Thunderbolt's guns fell silent once again. The space around the ship was filled with wreckage from over 100 alien vessels. The 2 most powerful fleets in the galaxy had been defeated by a single human ship. 3 weeks after the battle that changed everything, Commander Morrison stood on the observation deck of Haven Station. The massive space station had been built where the great battle took place and now served as humanity's first embassy to the galaxy. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see dozens of ships from different species arriving and departing. The station was a marvel of human engineering. It had taken only 3 weeks to build using prefabricated sections brought from Earth. The central hub contained diplomatic offices and meeting rooms, while the outer rings housed quarters for visiting aliens and humans. Docking bays could handle ships of every size and configuration. Ambassador Sarah Williams walked onto the observation deck carrying a tablet full of reports. She was tall with graying hair and had been chosen to represent Earth because she could speak 7 alien languages. Her job was to turn humanity's military victory into lasting peace. "Commander," she said, "the Zephyrian Empire has agreed to our terms. They will withdraw from all disputed territories and pay reparations to the worlds they have damaged." Jake nodded. "What about the Korthak?" "War Prime Brutus is dead, but his successor has been more reasonable. The new Korthak leadership has also agreed to the withdrawal and reparations. They are calling it the Treaty of Haven." Jake looked out at the stars. The galaxy was finally at peace, but the cost had been enormous. Over 300 alien ships had been destroyed in the battles. Thousands of alien crew members had died. The survivors would remember this day forever. "Sarah," Jake said, "do you think we did the right thing?" She considered the question carefully. "Jake, for 200 years, this galaxy has been consumed by war. Entire species have been driven to extinction. Worlds have been turned into wastelands. Someone had to say enough. But at what cost? We destroyed 2 entire fleets and saved billions of lives. The war would have continued for centuries if we had not intervened. Sometimes peace requires strength." Dr. Carter joined them at the window. She had been promoted to Chief Science Advisor and was helping to establish research agreements with friendly alien species. "Commander, I have some interesting news. The Altarian Republic has offered to share their medical technology with us. They have cures for diseases that have plagued humanity for centuries." Jake was surprised. "Why would they do that?" "They want our protection. The Altarians are a peaceful species who have been caught between the Zephyrian and Korthak empires. They see humanity as their salvation." More ships arrived at the station. The Vegan Confederacy had sent a trade delegation. The Centauri Union wanted to establish shipping routes through human space. The Proxima government was offering to share their star charts. Species that had been too afraid to act during the war were eager to join the new order. Lieutenant Martinez entered the observation deck with a tactical report. "Sir, we have completed the security assessment of the station. The defense platforms are online, and the patrol squadrons are in position. Any threats? Jake asked. No, sir. The remaining Zephyrian and Korthic ships are staying far away from this system. Most of them have returned to their home territories. Jake was relieved. The last thing he wanted was another battle. The galaxy had seen enough death and destruction. What about the relief convoys? The first convoy departed this morning. Medical supplies and food for the refugee camps on Delta. Cygni, the second convoy will leave tomorrow for the Vega system. The relief effort was massive. Hundreds of worlds had been damaged by the Great War, and millions of refugees needed help. Earth had committed to providing aid to any world that requested it. The industrial capacity of the solar system was being converted from military production to humanitarian assistance. Commander Sam Rodriguez said as he entered the observation deck, "You have a visitor. War Prime Vexter of the Korthic wants to meet with you." Jake was surprised. The new Korthic leader had been avoiding human contact since taking power. Send him in. The alien who entered the observation deck was impressive. War Prime Vexter was 7 feet tall with biomechanical implants covering half his body. His left arm had been replaced with a weapon system, and his right eye glowed with electronic sensors. Despite his fearsome appearance, he moved carefully and kept his weapons powered down. Commander Morrison, Vexter said through his translation, "Device, I come to speak of the future." Jake gestured to a chair that had been specially designed for Korthic physiology. "Please sit, War Prime. What do you wish to discuss?" "Your species has proven its strength," the alien said. "But strength alone does not make peace. The Korthic have been warriors for 1,000 years. We do not know how to be anything else." Sarah stepped forward. "War Prime, we understand that change is difficult. Earth is prepared to help your people transition to peaceful activities." Vexter's biomechanical eye focused on her. "What kind of help? Trade agreements, technology exchanges, cultural programs. We want to show the galaxy that former enemies can become friends." The alien leader was quiet for a long moment. His bioneural implants processed the information at incredible speed. The old War Prime Brutus believed that only the strong survive. He taught us that peace was weakness. "And what do you believe?" Jake asked. "I believe that your species has shown us a new way. You are strong enough to destroy. U.S., but wise enough to offer mercy. Perhaps there is more to existence than endless war." Dr. Carter activated a holographic display showing various star systems. "War Prime, we have identified several worlds in Korthic space that could benefit from terraforming technology. Earth is willing to share this knowledge in exchange for mineral rights." Vexter studied the display with interest. "These worlds have been barren for centuries. You could make them green again." "We could make them into gardens," Carter replied. "Your people could learn to grow food instead of growing weapons." The alien leader stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see ships from dozens of different species working together. Zephyrian crystal vessels shared docking bays with human metal ships. Altarian biopods floated next to Centauri cargo haulers. It was a sight that would have been impossible just weeks before. "Commander Morrison," Vexter said, "the Korthic Dominion accepts your terms. We will withdraw from all occupied territories and pay reparations as required. But we ask for one thing in return." "What is that?" Jake asked. "Help us become something better than we were." The meeting ended with the signing of the Haven Accords. The formal treaty established humanity as the peacekeeping force in the galaxy while creating a framework for peaceful cooperation between all species. The war that had lasted for 2 centuries was officially over. Later that evening, Jake stood alone on the observation deck watching the stars. The Thunderbolt hung motionless in space nearby its hull, still scarred from battle. The ship that had changed galactic history would soon return to Earth, where it would be honored as a symbol of human courage. Ambassador Williams joined him at the window. "The last of the alien fleets have left the system," she reported. "Both the Zephyrians and Korthik are honoring the treaty terms." "Good," Jake said. "What about the refugee situation?" "Better than expected. 17 different species have offered to take in displaced populations. The Altarians are providing medical care, while the Centauri are handling transportation. Even some former enemy worlds are helping." Jake nodded with satisfaction. This was what he had hoped for. Not just an end to the war, but the beginning of cooperation. "Sarah, do you think it will last? The peace?" "I think so. Both alien empires are exhausted from centuries of fighting. Their people want something better. And now they know that humanity will enforce the peace if necessary. We cannot police the entire galaxy forever. We won't have to. Once the other species see the benefits of cooperation, they will police themselves. Trade is more profitable than war. Growth is better than destruction." Dr. Carter's voice came over the communication system. "Commander, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth. The President wants to speak with you." Jake made his way to the communications center, where a holographic image of the President appeared. The leader of Earth looked tired but pleased. Behind him, Jake could see the flags of every nation on Earth. "Commander Morrison," the President said, "on behalf of all humanity, I want to thank you and your crew. You have done something remarkable. You have brought peace to the galaxy." "Thank you, sir," Jake replied. "But our work is just beginning. Winning the peace will be harder than winning the war." "I understand. That is why I'm authorizing the construction of 10 more ships like the Thunderbolt. We will need a fleet if we are going to maintain order across the galaxy." Jake was pleased. One ship had been enough to end the war, but keeping the peace would require a sustained effort. What about Earth's other commitments? The relief effort will continue. We are converting our military-industrial complex to humanitarian production. Every world that needs help will get it. The transmission ended, and Jake returned to the observation deck. The galaxy was finally at peace, but the future remained uncertain. Humanity had become the dominant power in known space through strength and wisdom. Now they had to prove they could use that power responsibly. In the distance, Jake could see the first convoy of relief ships heading toward damaged worlds. Each vessel